You're listening to the Orange Power Podcast, a product of Oklahoma State Athletics. Here are your hosts, Jessica Morey, and the voice of the Cowboys, Dave Hunziker.
Welcome once again to Orange Power Podcast. Casey Kendrick along with Coach Jim Littell. And, Coach, we got a lot to talk about, obviously coming off the emotional win over Texas Tech, an emotional loss to TCU. And, you know, when you think about this year and this season, the way things are going, it's, it may be as unpredictable as it's ever been.
Well, it definitely is. You know, the league is really good again. You know, a lot of great players came back to the league. So everybody's going to have to experience the agony of not playing with a full complement of players. So it's gonna be a really challenging time for a lot of teams.
Well, and you know, you and I have talked specifically about the absence of certain players and certain people that weren't available and will continue not to be available for you. But, you know, you told me in post-game, even the other night after the TCU game, that you're asking your kids to adopt and accept and truly embrace next person up. So that's what you're going to do. I mean, if you go out and talk about the excuses of not having someone, then they can certainly rest on that. But you're not allowing them to do that. We got kids on this team that are scholarship players. Got to keep moving forward.
That's true. We got 16 players, and we have adopted the philosophy of next player up and be ready and practice each day like you could be a starter. And if that's what I'm going to ask our players to do, that's what I need to accept as well. And that's the situation that we're in, Case.
You know, now you got to convince a broadcaster to think that's the same way. Obviously, not having some of those pieces are going to make things more complicated. And you know what else is interesting, Coach? When you analyze the midway point, essentially, of your season, there are games when you had game-winning numbers everywhere, but came up a little short. And then there were times when you look at the numbers and went, man, that one didn't go very well, and you had a W. Again, the unpredictability, not just of the players' availability, but just the way games are unfolding right now.
That's true, and our inconsistency, especially on the offensive end of the floor, has led it to be where there's not much margin for error in how we play. And you know, we've really worked on just finishing little shots, trying to be more efficient at the free throw line, cut the turnovers down. For the most part, we've been good enough defensively to have a chance to stay in ball games and win ball games, but we got to continue to be more efficient offensively and find a second and third score.
So let's talk philosophy for just a minute, all right? So externally, there was less pressure and expectations on this team than we've had in some years past. You know, finish 7th, 8th, whatever people thought you were going to finish in the league. And so from an outside perspective, you go, okay, well, it's a rebuilding year, potentially. Internally, that's not the way this goes. The toll on a season that is a tough season, whether the external pressure is there or not, has no little bearing at all on how you handle wins and losses and your team does throughout the course of the season.
No, I look at myself as a competitor and our coaching staff as competitors, and we want to win every game. We want to play well every game. We want to win every practice and feel like that we're getting better each day. So there isn't less pressure. There's probably more pressure, especially when you're trying to find some answers.
Well, and the other thing that's interesting, though, is because, again, whether it's an excuse or not, there are certain kids that are being forced into action and in different roles because of the absences of other kids. And I see you seemingly more patient. I mean, I don't want to say more positive. You could be a very positive coach. You're still a ball coach. You're still old school, and you hold kids accountable. But I also see you being a little more patient, seemingly, with some of the young kids that you know just aren't quite ready, but they've been forced into action.
Well, they have been forced into action, and the positive out of that is some of those kids are going to have a chance to develop and get a lot of minutes as freshmen. Macy James, for example, has shown many bright spots. I think she's going to be an excellent player. And You look at people like Lauren Fields that after this year will have 2 full years left, and she's in a position right now of being the go-to player, and you've got to take some of the tough times and find a way to create a positive situation out of it.
Well, and again, we're not unique in that. When you look at several of the programs across the Big 12, they went with youth movements and they took knocks for a long time, and then finally you're starting to blossom a little bit. I mean, that's if you can get kids to stick around for 4 years, kids to put in the time, there is a reward to that at the end of their time here.
No, and I believe that we'll see that, and we need to see improvement this year, and we need to see kids continue to grow each day in practice. That's a goal. That's part of the process. But you look at Kansas. Kansas is vastly improved. It's a team that started kids as freshmen. Now they're all juniors, and they're getting conference wins and playing extremely well, and there's some other teams as well.
Let's talk about the action this week. Texas Tech down in Lubbock. You guys were searching for your first Big 12 win. Obviously, that made it a big game. It's a Big 12 game. That made it a big game. Former player, the promotions of the night, all of the things that were kind of surrounding that made that one a very intriguing game, and your kids really answered the bell.
I like the way we responded. I thought we were up and ready to play from the onset of the game, and that has turned into a rivalry game, and our kids embraced that and played hard on the defensive end and had some key shots. We're finally starting to see some people hit some big buckets at key times, and I was very proud of their effort and had some kids step up and have exceptional games. Lexi Keys hit a lot of big shots throughout that game. Lowe continued to be fantastic. And we got kids that were playing solid on the defensive end of the floor.
Great win, knock off Texas Tech, get to 1-2 in the Big 12, chance to go to 500 on the road at TCU. And, Coach, this was a team. Again, excuse or not, this is a team that had not had a lot of full court practices, hadn't had a full allotment of their kids, and quite honestly, they had struggled. But when you look at the roster for TCU, they're about as talented as anybody in this league, and unfortunately, they kind of woke up on the night we take them on.
Well, they ended up playing a makeup game on Monday, and I thought they benefited from that they could kind of get back in action and get their kids back in better shape. But we had our opportunities, and they've got some exceptional players, and Lauren Hurd and Tavi Diggs is a really good player, and the Adick kid is an exceptional player. They had 27 against Kansas, so they've got talent, and they put it together on that night. And we look back at film, and we missed a lot of easy shots and missed some free throws again. And in tight games, you just cannot overcome some of those plays at times.
Well, and when you look at that one and you look at the box score, that's one of those coaches that you go, okay, this is probably a win. I mean, you guys shot above 50% beyond the arc. You shot 40% from the field. Now, again, you mentioned the misses. Could have been a much bigger percentage from the field. Decent from the free throw line. You won some of the hustle points and categories along the way. But where TCU was able to win this one, they got to the free throw line more, and they were able to beat you on the boards.
Well, we had done a good job at Texas Tech, limiting them to 8 free throws, and then I think TCU got to the line 21 times. And we had a tough matchup in Lauren Hurd of trying to contain her, and we had to end up moving Lauren Fields onto her. So I thought we got a little fatigued at the end with a short bench, but our kids battled the whole ball game, and it came down to one play at the end of the game.
Yeah, obviously they hit a free throw, basically no time left, win the ball game. Going back to Lowe, though, Coach, man, you talk about putting 2 games back-to-back that were phenomenal. Her game against Texas Tech, TCU, set another career high with 26 points, and it's not a one-end player. She is doing it on both ends, such a complete development of her the last season.
No, she did a great job of guarding Vivian Gray at Texas Tech, and we asked her to do a lot for our team. And I thought the ball game that she played at TCU was her best of her career here, not only on the offensive end but the defensive end as well. And she's hitting a lot of big shots at key times right now.
So now, Coach, you get the opportunity to knock off Iowa State, and I know Bill Finley's got one of his best teams, maybe one of the most complete teams he's had in a while, and you feel like this may be the best team in the league.
I do. I mean, I just think their skill set, and when I say skill set, I'm talking about shooting. I think they're the best shooting team in our league and maybe the best shooting team in the country. And they can score at 5 positions. They're relatively young but very experienced, and they've got a lot of players that have a very high basketball IQ. Well-coached team. Can go off on the 3-line anytime. They finished the K-State game with 7 for 9 in the fourth quarter from the 3-line. So very difficult guard and play 5 people that could score the basketball.
Well, and Coach, then you follow that up with a road trip to Waco, Texas, and take on Baylor. And Baylor is 0 at the time of our taping here in the Big 12. You know, that's the thing that you look at from a opportunity standpoint. I mean, it may be you guys struggling, and this is a really good Iowa State team, but a Kansas knocks off a Texas. Baylor is 0-2 in the league. You just never know. If your kids catch the right wind, they could not easily, but they could find a way to beat Iowa State.
No, I mean, that's why you play the game, and we'll need to play a little better than what we've been playing, and things will have to go the right way, but that's why you play the game, and you go into every game thinking you're going to win.
Iowa State, Baylor. Coach, best of luck this week. Appreciate the time.
Appreciate it.
Hey, coming up next week, we will be back with Dave and with Jessica. They are both out this week. Dave's on that incredible trip for the Cowboys, and Jessica's on assignment, so we'll get a chance hopefully to have them back here next week, and we'll look a little bit more normal. But that's going to do it for us. Our thanks to Jim Littell. Thanks to you for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the Orange Power Podcast.